Dear student, welcome you all again in my video. Today I am going to discuss on the topic the digestive system of Herdmania. Now see this diagram. Here is the branchial aperture and the whole system is initiated from the mouth, or you can say branchial aperture. This branchial aperture is leads toward the branchial siphon, or you can say buccal cavity, and at the base of buccal cavity have a sphincter muscles. uh, Next is the pharynx region, the whole pharynx portion which is divisible into the two part. One is the pre pharyngeal zone and second is the branchial zone. So the tentacles, branchial tentacles, which are present in this region, prebranchial zone, it is devoid of or without stigmata, without fold, and without gill slits. So the prepharyngeal region, prebranchial region is without stigmata, without fold, and without gill slits are, and this region is the branchial sac region. It is the largest portion of the whole body of Herdmania. And in this portion, you have see that the black color, actually these are the stigmata, and the arrangement of this stigmata, or you can say gill slits, in a transverse manner. They help in basically for respiration process, and this position, dotted like structure, actually this layer is known as endostyle, and the position of endostyle actually the is the uh, uh, floor of the branchial sac, or on the ventral side of the branchial sac. Now this pharynx is leads towards the esophagus, and this esophagus region uh, um, again forward towards the region which is known as stomach, and this stomach is further leads towards the intestine, and the last portion of the intestine is the anus, and around the stomach, or the position of liver is present on the lateral side of the stomach. There are two type of liver. One is the left lobe of liver and second is the right lobe of liver. So this anus is open to outside through the body, or they expel all other on unwasting on waste material through this aperture is known as atrial aperture. So this anus is goes towards the atrial aperture. Through this aperture they exit all the waste material through outside the body, or expel outside the body. Next, the whole digestive system of Herdmania, which is include the two part. One is the alimentary canal and second is the digestive gland. Alimentary canal is coiled and complete, and it's starting from mouth and terminating towards the anus. So the one part is the mouth, second is the buccal cavity, third is the pharynx. The pharynx is divisible into the two part. One is the prebranchial zone, second is the branchial sac. So branchial sac have a several structure like stigmata, trabercula, dorsal lamina, endostyle, esophageal area, etc. Next, after pharynx, next organ is esophagus, and then stomach, then intestine, then rectum, and last one is the cloaca. The digestive gland are two types. One is the liver and second is the pyloric gland. Now here we further divide the whole digestive system of Herdmania into four zones. One is the ingressive zone, second is progressive zone, and third is degressive zone, and fourth is ingressive zone. Ingressive zone include mouth and buccal cavity. Progressive zone include pharynx, esophagus and stomach. Degressive zone, it include only intestine, and ingressive zone, it include only rectum. Now, detail about the whole alimentary system or alimentary canal of Herdmania. So we start from the mouth region. Look here. It is the branchial aperture, and it is at the present on the top region, and it marks the anterior portion of the body, and it is bordered by the four lips. And this branchial aperture which leads towards the branchial siphon. This branchial siphon, or you can say branchial cavity, is short and narrow. Now, it is internally lined up with epidermis, which is known as stomodium, or you can say buccal cavity. There, one thing is branchial sphincter. Sphincter, it is the muscle, is strong and it is present near the base of siphon, this portion. It is present and that reason, this area, it is a sphincter muscles. It regulates its opening, means branchial siphonal opening. Next is the branchial tentacles. Branchial tentacles present in this region, and it is present at the base of siphon. Its number is 64 and have a 4 different size, 8 large in size, 8 medium in size, 16 small in size, and 32 very small size. So it have 4 different size. Look here, these tentacles are sickle in shape, and the arrangement of this tentacle in the form of this, you see in this picture, and it's present at the base of siphon. It is the buccal cavity, and this portion is the dorsal tubercle, and this dorsal tubercle leads toward the esophageal opening. It is made up of 2 lip structure for opening and closing, or its help in the opening and closing or guarding of the esophageal opening. Now it is the portion, it is a side region of branchial. Actually these are the endostyle, and its position is ventral side or ventral border of branchial sac. Next, I shown in a previous picture. It is the branchial tentacles, it is sickle in shape like this. And the function of branchial sac is the it prevent entry of larger food particles into the pharynx region. Next is the pharynx. Pharynx is the larger portion of the body, or you can say major part of the body. And pharynx have a 2 region. One is the prebranchial zone, and second one is the branchial region. So this portion is known as actually prebranchial zone. Next, prebranchial zone, it is anterior smaller region, and they are without fold, without stigmata, cilia or gill slits. This prebranchial zone is further differentiate into the two part. You see here, this one is the posterior peripharyngeal band, and this is the anterior peripharyngeal band, and between the two present a groove which known as peripharyngeal cavity or peripharyngeal grooves. The cilia of peripharyngeal grooves is uh, smaller, and the cilia of anterior peripharyngeal band and posterior peripharyngeal band are larger in size. This branchial sac is the now after prebranchial zone, next it lead towards the branchial sac. This branchial sac is the largest posterior region of the pharynx. This region, this, okay, this one is known as the branchial sac. Branchial sac. Okay. So in the branchial sac, you have seen stigmata. Stigmata you see in a black color, and they are arranged in a transverse manner. This. Okay. And the branchial sac is perforated by numerous gill slit, which is known as stigmata. The function of stigmata is it communicate the cavity of pharynx to the atrial cavity. So its function is the communication between pharynx to the atrial cavity. And the arrangement of stigmata is transverse manner, and its number approx 2 lakh. Stigmata have a lateral cilia. See in this diagram, they are very small in size. On the inner side of stigmata is a lateral cilia, and the arrangement of this stigmata in transverse manner. The pharyngeal wall of pharynx, the pharyngeal wall, actually this picture shows the pharyngeal wall. So the pharyngeal wall of pharynx, it consists with longitudinal and transverse bar. Longitudinal and transverse bar, which are present at regular interval. They are present in a regular interval, and these are known as the stigmatic area. And this bar contain corresponding blood vessels. This bar contain corresponding blood vessels. One is the internal blood vessels corresponding to the longitudinal vessels, and external transverse blood vessels corresponding to the transverse bar. So the adjacent stigmata is separated by through the longitudinal interstigmatal bar, which means two different stigmata bar. This longitudinal stigmatal bar or vessels present between the two different stigmata, and transverse, this is a transverse, and this transverse by the intrastigmatic bar, means between the same stigmata, row of stigmata. Next is trabeculae. Trabeculae actually seen in in this structure, in this diagram. This diagram show actually the transverse section of Herdmania through the atrial siphon. So in this diagram, the thread-like structure which are shown here is known as trabeculæ, which are present on both sides, and its number approx 10 on either side. These are help for increasing the surface area, and it make the connection between the branchial sac. It make the connection between the branchial sac to the mental. Mental, it means body wall. This one is the body wall. So it make the connection between branchial sac to the mental, and it contain blood vessels. This trabeculae contain a blood vessel, so it help in a respiration through the procedure of gaseous exchange. Next is the dorsal lamina. Its size approx 1 to 1.5 centimeter, and its position, it present at the roof of branchial sac or above portion of the branchial sac in the mid region, or its number, it's have a processes which number is 20 to 30, this tongue-like aperture, tongue-like processes which are known as languid, which name is languid, and they are ciliated. They are covered totally with the cilia, and it create, or its function is the create a sort of gutter for conducting food material. Next is the endostyle. The position of endostyle, actually they are present on the ventral side, or you can say at the floor of branchial sac. They present at the floor of branchial sac. And it's very important that one endostyle of urochordate, which is homologous to the hypopharyngeal groups of cephalochordates and thyroid gland of vertebrates. If we see this diagram, the endostyle, which is consist with 5 longitudinal ciliary tract, 5 ciliary tract. One is present in mid region, which is known as median longitudinal cilia, and other is lateral cilia, this one, and they are present in a alternative manner with mucus secreting glandular cell. This. So total number of cilia is 5 ciliary tract, not longitudinal. 1 is longitudinal. So one median cilia, it is longest, other 2 pairs, 2 lateral pairs. So they are present in a alternative manner with a mucus secreting gland cells. These are mucus secreting gland cells. This diagram shows the relation of branchial fold and the peripharyngeal bands and dorsal lamina and to the to the esophageal area and the endostyle. This portion is totally, actually this portion is the prebranchial zone. This one is the prebranchial zone, and this structure we have seen from the upper side of the branchial aperture. These are the tentacles on the inner side of branchial siphon, and is the esophageal opening, and this one is the left lobe of levers, and this portion overall is known as the pharynx region, this area. Now, esophageal area. This branchial sac or pharynx region, which is lead towards the esophageal area, or you can say it is the posterior region of the branchial sac, this region. It is a smaller circular esophageal area, and it is made up of 2 semicircular lips, and its function, it guarding, or it create esophageal opening and closing. The esophageal area is devoid of blood vessels. Haven't know any blood vessels. And the next is it lead towards the esophagus. Branchial sac is posteriorly or dorsally open into the esophagus area, this area. And it is very short and curved, and its wall thick and tube-like, and have a narrow lumen, not very wider. It is narrow, and they contain a cilia for make a passage of food material. Next, this is esophagus is leads towards the stomach. The stomach wall is thicker compared to the esophagus, and this stomach region is wider as compared to esophagus. Its inner wall is smooth and it's surrounded either side with the left lobe and right lobe of liver. The left lobe of liver are large in size. Next is the digestive gland. So liver act as a digestive gland. They are brown in color. So see in this diagram, actually color are not shown here. So its color is brown, and the left lobe is larger, and right lobe is smaller in size. And smaller lobe, it means right lobe, which is attached either side of stomach. And liver secreted various types of enzyme like amylase, proteases, and lipase. Amylase act on carbohydrate or starch, and proteases they act on protein, and lipase they act on lipids. And this pyloric gland, it consists with the branching tubules, and they are present in the wall of stomach and intestine. They are present in stomach region and intestinal portion, and they open by a single duct in the middle region of the proximal part of intestine, and have a dual function. One is the excretory and second is the vertebrate pancreas. Here I'm not discussing on this thing. Intestine, actually next is after stomach. Stomach leads towards the intestine. Intestine, in which stomach leads to our intestine. Its wall thin, and it is a U-shaped tube-like structure, U-shaped, and have a two end. One is the proximal and second is the distal region. So both are united anteriorly. Both are united anteriorly and form a intestinal loop and enclose this proximal and distal lobe. They are make a coiled like structure and enclosed the left gonad. Next is the rectum. Rectum is the terminal part of intestine, and it open through the narrow position which is known as cloaca, and this cloaca, or you can say atrial cavity, and open dorsally. This open towards the dorsal region to outside through the atrial aperture, and this atrial aperture have a atrial siphon. This atrial siphon they internally lined up with ectoderm, and it known as, or it represent a proctoderm. So I already discussed about the digestive gland. So about the feeding mechanism in case of Herdmania. So its habit is the sedentary. They cannot move from place to place without any help. So it's a ciliary feeder or filter feeder. It feed on the microscopic algae, diatom, micro planktons, organism, and so many others microscopic material. So firstly beating of lateral cilia which are present in the stigmata, and it creates constant water current which are enter through the mouth, or you can say buccal cavity. And after buccal cavity, they move towards the pharynx, and after that they passes into stigmata, and from stigmata it goes toward the atrial cavity, and through the atrial cavity these water current uh, leave the body through the atrial siphon or cloaca, or you can say atrial aperture. In the branchial aperture or in branchial siphon have a branchial tentacles. So function of the branchial tentacles, it is the prevent for larger food particle or other big unwanted particle, and allow only minute food particle, and they enter into the pharynx with the water current. So these minute food particle enter into the pharynx with the water current. The branchial tentacles, they are also act as a chemoreceptor. The one function is also chemoreceptor. Function, its keep means its function to keep out the impurities and throughout of the mouth by producing a reverse current uh, through which they throw out the all impurities which are present in a water or food material. So the lateral cilia of stigmata, those are present in the stigmata. This diagram I have shown you. This in this picture, this one is the lateral cilia. This lateral cilia is retain the food material, and the food material are settled on this branchial wall or pharyngeal wall. After mucus secretion, from where it secreted from the gland cells of the endostyle, or the function of endostyle is the mucus secretion. So after mucus secretion, the food material which is mixed with mucus, and this food mixed with mucus or food laden mucus, through ciliary action they reach towards the dorsal lamina. This dorsal lamina uh, is rolled up. This cylindrical mass means food laden mucus drive its backward by ciliary action, and it's make the groove, this dorsal lamina from the groove by the help of tongue-like structure which is curved, or you can say its name is languate tongue-like structure of dorsal lamina, and through this they pass the food material or food laden mucus or in the form of cylindrical mass into the esophagus. From esophagus the food passes into the stomach region. In the stomach region, the food is digested with the help of various enzymes. Liver secreted various types of enzyme. Number one is amylase. It hydrolyzes starch or act on carbohydrate, and proteases break down the protein into simpler form, and lipase, they act on a fat. And next is the pyloric gland. It is accessory in digestive function and have a same function like a pancreas of vertebrates, other higher chordates. So digestion is complete. Now digested food absorbed into the intestine, and remain undigested food passes into the rectum, and through the rectal cilia they goes toward the cloaca, and they expel out forcefully up to the 10 to 12 centimeter of distance by sudden contraction of atrial aperture. So the reserve food which are present in the form of starch like granule into the liver and the wall of esophagus, stomach and intestine region. So So the whole digestion of the Herdmania is now completed. Thank you all. And in the last, kindly subscribe and share my videos and channels. Thank you.